Julian was born from a gold rush in 1869, but it's apples, not ore, that built its legacy. The town sits at 4,200 feet in the Cuyamaca Mountains, surrounded by orchards brought by settlers who found the soil more fruitful than the hills. Julian's wooden storefronts, clapboard architecture, and narrow lanes have resisted sprawl, and the entire town is on the National Register of Historic Places. Hungarian immigrants who homesteaded nearby. Eagle Mining Company offers guided tours through a 140-year-old shaft with original rails and stamping equipment. Julian runs on altitude and self-containment, with seasonal snow, dry summers, and a population under 1,500 that maintains its frontier character year-round.
like when you go to pick an apple, you don't twist it.
Really?
If my apples on my trees are ready to be picked, just your pressure of pulling down without having to yank is going to be enough to take it off the tree.
Okay.
So when you twist it, what you're really doing is taking them prematurely because they will continue to get ripe as they're sitting on your counter.
Gotcha.
So when but if they're ripe, they're not going to take a whole lot of effort.
Okay.
So now here's your trivia question for the day. So you look here, and it doesn't look like a big orchard, but it goes all the way down there.
Okay.
And so you're going to be shocked at how big the place is. How many trees does it take to be called an orchard?
Oh God, that's a great question.
I would say 80.
I would say 20.
I would say 8.
8?
Can you believe that?
Wow.
Only 8 trees quantifies as an orchard.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
That is something.
So, we have a lot of varietals. They're not just Granny Smith. And you'll know because they don't look the same. They don't feel the same. See these red sprays? That's a whole different varietal. Now, I'm just going to pick it up and I'm going to see what happens.
Oh.
So it was right. It's ready.
Cool.
That's how much pressure you put on them. Don't have to do any more than that. And let me just tell you, I've got apples all right here too, and over there. And I know there's some really good ripe ones on that small aisle.
Okay.
And you just literally just weave in and out. I suggest that you only take like 2 or 3. But I mean, if you're really loving the ones right there, you're going to take them all. But there's a lot of trees.
Okay.
Your bag's going to get full halfway through if you're not careful to go all the way. And there's different varietals over there than there are over here.
Okay.
Please safety first.
By a gentleman named Billy Moran. My name's Wayne. I'll be your tour guide today. So this is one of the ore carts that they brought the ore out in. They would have to fill this cart all the way full to get a ton of ore. Out of that ton of ore, they had to get at least an ounce of gold to make a profit. An ounce of gold is about the size of a sugar cube, guys. That's what they can expect to get out of that full cart of ore. Pretty crazy, huh? So this is the hoist bucket. Hi, guys. You didn't miss much.
Room for 3 more?
Yeah, you bet.
All right.
So this is the hoist bucket here. This is not only what they use to pull ore out of the shaft they have in here. This is also the elevator the man used to get to and from work. They fit 2 to 3 men in this bucket at a time. One leg in and one leg out. As they went down the shaft, they'd have to use their outside leg to keep the bucket off the side of the shaft. Because if it got caught on the side of the shaft, it could flip over and dump everybody out. 27 stories to the bottom. Now remember, guys, this is 1870. There's no OSHA. All right? Now this is some of the ore that was left behind by the miners when they abandoned the mine. This mine was in operation through the late 1930s. When they abandoned the mine, they weren't going to be doing any more processing any more ore. They weren't going to be doing any more mining. They left the ore and a lot of the tools and equipment behind in the mine. We just left all this in here for you guys to see. We'll see some of this in here as we go in. At the end of the Civil War, there was a lot of freed slaves that came out west here to start a new life. One of these gentlemen, his name was Fred Coleman. He was a cattleman from Kentucky. He was working out here in Winona one day, and he was watering his horse in the creek when he noticed something shiny in the water. So he got down off of his horse with his frying pan, which at that time would have been a cast iron skillet. Not one of these modern lightweight gold pans that we have here nowadays. So imagine it was quite a workout for him to get that 1 ounce of gold he got out that first day. Well, he was very excited about that find, of course, so he got on his horse and started his 6-hour horseback ride down to San Diego to get his gold in the bank. He was a very friendly guy. On his way down there, he stopped everybody he saw along the trail, showed him his gold, and told him where he got it. Actually, we have him to thank for this town of Julian being here, because if it wasn't for that, this town of Julian would not have been established to support the 235 active gold mines there were here in the heyday. That one man could not have possibly have gotten all that gold. I'm sure he got his fair share out of the creeks, right? News of this find spread like wildfire across the country, where it reached the ears of some ex-Confederate soldiers who were once gold miners during the Georgia Gold Rush. Let me ask you guys something. Yeah, sure. Okay, you guys, this is the first vein of quartz that they found when they came in here. This is called the Eagle Vein. This is the drift tunnel that they dug when they were digging out following this vein of quartz. You can see this vein of quartz runs all the way down this tunnel here, and this is how they got all this gold out. Over here in this photograph, we see here's a picture of Billy Moran. He's kind of hard to see because he's wearing dark clothing here. And this is the house he lived in right here on the property. Right now it is almost 70 degrees in here. I heard somebody say something about how nice and cool it is. Let me get behind you there, sir. The reason for that is this is one big giant chunk of rock. We're standing inside of this mountain that is one piece of rock. This rock has a very high thermal capacity. It wants to resist changes in temperature. So wherever you are in the world, if you're underground, it's going to be the median temperature of whatever area that you're in. It happens to be the median temperature in Julian is about 60 to 65 degrees. The reason why it's a little warmer in here than that right now is because we're so close to the opening here, we're getting some air exchange. As we go farther into the mine, you're going to feel it cool off. Very nice in here. I have to warn you guys, in 1870, the average height of a human was 5'2". So these miners didn't take anything out of here they didn't have to. So please watch your heads coming through here. There's very low ceilings, especially coming through these wood structures. These beams are very hard and they really hurt. Please don't ask me how I know that. This wooden structure would not have been here when the mine was in operation. This was put in here by us to keep rocks from falling on our heads from the 5 levels of tunnels that are above us here. This is an open shaft called a stope, and it connects 6 levels of tunnels, including the one we're standing in. They would just park their ore cart under here, and they would use gravity to fill the ore carts. And also notice how these tracks run slightly uphill. This is because it was easier to roll 2,000 pounds of ore downhill and push an empty cart back. See some more modern equipment in here. Here's some of the pneumatic jackhammers that would have been used in the 1920s and 30s down here on the floor. For those of you in the back, you'll see this on your right-hand side when you're walking through. We also have these black powder boxes here. This is the end off of one, Hercules powders. They didn't use nitroglycerin or dynamite in this mine because it was too expensive. They made their own charges out of black powder. Because of that, there were no matches allowed in the mine. You ever struck a match and seen a spark go flying off? Well, if one of those sparks lands in a box of black powder, everybody be having a very bad day. So the rule was you could light your match outside the mine with a candle, but once you're inside the mine, you can only light it off of another burning candle, either yours or someone else's. So come on down here, guys. We're going to have to do kind of a walk by here. There's too many people to get everybody up here real close to see this. This is that mine shaft I talked about outside here. So you ready for these statistics here real quick? This hole right here is 425 feet.
Whoa.
Or 27 stories or 130 meters deep. Now right here we have one of these hoist buckets, just like the one we saw outside. How'd you like to be one of 2 or 3 guys in that? I think you can see back in here if you stand right in here, that'll be fine. Back in here we have these timbers here. They would have several of these timbers tied up at the top, and then the bottom of those timbers would be spread out around that opening down there. And they would tie the pulley up on the top of all that. The cable would run from here up to that pulley, and then to the hoist bucket, and then they'd lower and raise that bucket. Now the hoist operator standing right here, right next to this hit or miss engine, which is very, very loud. This is an archaic piece of 19th century technology. He would be able to hear the foreman in the bottom of the shaft going, "Raise the bucket!" Right? So they had this bell, and this bell was connected to another cable and went through a smaller pulley all the way down to the foreman in the bottom of the shaft. And they had the California shaft bell signal system. This system was in place in the late 1800s through the early 1900s until somebody invented the intercom. Although I think this probably avoided a lot more arguments, right? A little one-way communication there. Kind of hard to argue with that. So when that foreman did want to raise the bucket, let's say this time it had ore in it. So he wants to ring the bell twice and then wants to hoist rock. That would sound like this. Pretty clear? It's right next to his head so he can hear that, right? So let's do a different operation here. Let's say now instead of raising rock, he wants to raise men. It's time to go home. Remember, that's the elevator they use as well. So he's going to ring the bell 3 times and then 1 time. Men on, run slowly, men to be hoisted. That would sound like this. Now, okay, this is all laying flat on the bottom of the ocean over eons of time with sediment building up and creating more and more pressure. All that sediment underneath was compressed down into what we call sedimentary rock. Now we have a subduction zone here off the coast of California, which is not unlike the subduction zone that caused that 8.8 earthquake off the coast of Russia here a couple weeks ago. Remember that tsunami warning and all that? So what's happening here is the Pacific plate is pushing up under the North American plate, and it's pushing this whole mountain up out of the seabed and tilted all the sediment up on its side. This creates the path of least resistance between these cracks in these layers for the magma to come up here from the volcanic activity we had. I really do need you guys to come down this way.